Hi everyone, my name is Jill. I'm just running a session now on choosing postgraduate study, and I'm just going to share some slides with you to take you through making those decisions about your postgraduate next step. Okay, so session should take about 30 minutes or so at the most, and it will just take you through some of the basic steps when you're considering your choice to do a postgraduate course and your next steps to continue your qualifications. I'm going to switch my screen off now, and then I'll move through the presentation covering these 10 areas in brief. Okay, so if we move through onto why postgraduate study. Well, for some areas, it's a prerequisite, really. It's something that you need before you can take a course towards a particular profession. If you want to be a teacher, for example, then you would need to train to teach. If you wanted to be a drama therapist, then you'd need to train as a drama therapist, and you would do postgraduate study as a vehicle for this. Other career areas might just have postgraduate entry as more of a norm or a preference. So something like human resources, they quite like to see the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development qualifications, but it's not an absolute essential at the point of entry, and you can study towards them whilst you're working on the job. For academic careers, then certainly a master's course would tend to be a prerequisite to becoming a researcher or a lecturer at university. It's a developmental next step before embarking on a more specialist doctorate programme like a PhD. And it would be highly unusual to jump from an undergrad to a doctorate, and it only really happens in very exceptional circumstances where perhaps you've already been actively publishing on a topic, or you've got lots and lots of very focused work experience. In relation to employment prospects, then a postgraduate can be a positive option if your other career plans aren't falling into place. This was true for lots of people after the credit crunch in 2008, and it will probably be true again for some of you in the recession after COVID. Also, if you just haven't got enough experience on your CV yet to beat off the competition in hard to access professional areas, perhaps like museum work or life sciences, then a postgraduate can give you more time and opportunity to develop that work experience. A postgrad can also help you add to your general academic undergraduate degree with something more vocational and focused. If you're a historian, for example, you might use it to train as an archivist or a librarian, or if you're an English or creative writing student, you might choose a journalism postgrad or a public relations postgrad. So it can put that vocational spin on your career qualifications. It can set you apart as well from undergraduate applicants, but this doesn't always happen automatically, and it's not that black and white. It really depends on the course that you do. Some employers are not interested in paying any extra for a postgraduate qualification that isn't really directly relevant to the jobs that they're offering. And if an undergraduate applicant has already got lots of directly relevant work experience, then it may still make them a preferred candidate if you don't have any, even if you're a postgraduate. So you have to choose your course carefully and make sure that it really does advance your position. Of course, many people feel that they're just starting to really learn when they come to the end of their undergraduate degree, and they're desperate to continue, or to specialise perhaps in a particular aspect of their studies, and postgraduate study allows them to do this. A postgrad can equally be a route to something entirely different, though. If you don't have a psychology degree, but you decide you want to become a psychologist, then you can do a master's that swerves you in this direction and serves the purpose of a conversion course. Or as a non-law graduate, you can redirect to this profession using a postgraduate conversion course too. Finally, a postgraduate can buy you time to plan whilst you're raising the level of your qualifications. If by the end of your degree you're hopelessly undecided about your career direction, a postgrad can help you cope positively with this indecision and uncertainty and provide more time to think and focus. We're slightly wary, though, of choosing what can be a very expensive way to procrastinate. And don't do a course just because the people in your shared house or halls are doing it, or because your parents or a lecturer are saying that you should. They may not know all of your personal circumstances or be particularly aware of how relevant it is to your career and how the labour market regards it. It's much better to do the appropriate research yourself and take ownership of your decision. It's like choosing your first degree. There's an element of buyer beware. The bottom line is that yes, a postgraduate course is worth it because it represents the next intellectual challenge and continues your learning and your skills development. And it can be a chance to really dig deep into your subject and grow in confidence. But you should also use the extra time it offers to plan your career alongside and in much more detail, and to begin to build your professional networks. But we all know the £10,000 question is, will you earn more? Is it an investment that pays you dividends? Well, there's definitely a postgraduate premium, but if you're doing an academic rather than a vocational postgraduate course, this is over time rather than instant. Overall, it's true to say that a postgraduate generally does improve your salary and prospects, and I'll put some detail on this in a minute. But increased earnings potential tends to be a result of postgraduate qualifications building up your career's resilience. A postgrad can help you weather labour market storms and shocks like the one that we're going through at the moment. So let's have a look at the postgraduate premium in a bit more detail. Research by the Sutton Trust has showed that postgraduates tend to progress further and faster in their careers than undergraduates and earn on average about £5,500 more a year, or over £200,000 in the course of a working life. These are, of course, averages, and the figures include really high-earning professional courses, as well as academic, non-vocational mixed arts, humanities and social sciences. Nevertheless, it's still true that lower-earning arts postgraduates experience an uplift of around £50,000+ over the course of a working life. And if you think about it, this could be enough to pay off a mortgage or lay down the deposit on a flat. You know, it's quite a large sum of money. You're definitely much less likely to be made unemployed if you have a postgraduate, and to stay employed as a postgraduate, and much more likely to be recession resilient and have a degree of career resilience than anybody who's just leaving school with school leaving qualifications. So if you're decided on a postgraduate course, which type are you going to do? Are there differences apart from just subject matter? Well, the main difference is the amount of teaching. Not all postgraduate courses involve formal classroom time at all and are heavily research-based. Some do have a lecture and seminar tutorial component, and others are really just independent study with a light touch supervision from an academic supervisor. Postgraduate diplomas and certificate courses tend to be either vocational training related or, like the one offered a couple of years ago here at Roehampton in career and self-development, they form a bridge to higher level study. Sometimes for students who would be a borderline applicant to a full master's programme or have bumped along with a 2-2. An MPhil or an MRes can perform a similar function, but between a master's and a PhD, and give a fallback qualification if a PhD is not completed or if the research content of a PhD is not sufficiently unique or robust. The benchmark for entry are these. Usually a first or a 2-1 is needed for maximum choice of postgraduate programmes and to apply for any additional financial rewards. There's a reduced number available with a 2-2. Be aware that some vocational courses like PGCE, for example, stipulate particular school leaving qualifications too, and that a degree does not always offset these. For primary teacher training, even if you have a first, you will still need your GCSE maths and science and English at C or above. These are externally set benchmarks in order to get a place. Sometimes, but not always, relevant work experience will be taken into account too for certain courses. To sum up, ideally postgraduate courses shouldn't be an option just because you can't think of anything else, particularly if you struggled with your first degree. Remember that they are more intellectually challenging and they're an academic step up. You have to be very self-disciplined and motivated rather than half-hearted, particularly if you're hoping to progress as far as a PhD. And it's obviously a further commitment of your time and your money. Choosing postgraduate study might be a natural progression from your first degree, and for science subjects this is usually seen as the case. For other disciplines in arts and humanities and social sciences, having a break does not make so much difference. Sometimes early in your career, if you've secured a graduate traineeship for a big public sector or corporate company, they'll insist on you doing something at least to postgraduate diploma level as part of your training, and will sponsor you and give you practical support to complete projects in the workplace. If you're studying independently, though, the most common way to fund is to do the course part-time and to work part-time. Applications are usually in the late autumn, early spring. However, some very competitive programmes, or those that have professional recognition, do set firm deadlines with early closing dates. How competitive entry is depends on both the course and the institution. For example, there might be more applications to the University of London for history than there are to a smaller institution like Roehampton, and therefore they may set their deadline earlier. Always check with admissions right from the summer term of the second year before you begin to apply in the autumn or spring of your final year, so that you're aware of the deadlines in plenty of time. If you choose to study overseas, somewhere like the USA, then obviously you need to focus much earlier, and so that you can navigate their more complex application processes. And there are obviously pros and cons to moving uni after undergraduate study to take a postgrad. It means that you can get a chance to go to a uni you wouldn't have got the grades for the first time round as an undergrad, and perhaps has higher status research in your discipline. The flip side is that if you're in uni that you're familiar with, you don't have to waste time settling in, and you can devote all your energies to your masters. The picture should be emerging for you of a whole mixture of personal and professional concerns that are vital to take into consideration when you're choosing your course. Postgraduate study is highly individualised, and there's not the same system of application for all courses like there is UCAS for undergraduates. So some applications are direct, some are through UCAS, some are through other types of clearing houses. So with no single application system or closing dates, these are some of the factors which need to influence your decision making. There's a postgraduate open event regularly held at Roehampton. There was one last Wednesday, and there'll be another one in February. You can go to the website and register if you're interested, particularly in Roehampton courses. When carrying out your investigation, be realistic and apply for a safety net option too. Really think about whether the course delivers what you want it to. Ask probing questions and sift through what is marketing and what is fact. Think long term as well as short term. A course that seems expensive right now might release greater earnings potential or greater job security in the future. Similarly, it may not. The choices are risk-laden, and you need to do your research and investigate. Do some self-care. Think through any problems. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply or take up a place. It just means that you're better prepared to overcome issues if they do arise. Revisit your career thinking. Career thinking can provide a useful model for making your decisions. Who is influencing you and what are their motives? Are they benign? All academic staff like to feel encouraging and positive in relation to their students, but try and be a little sceptical and ask anyone who's making recommendations to be specific about why. Are you being steered, for example, only by the reputation of a university rather than really looking at the course content and the levels of support you might receive? Try to be honest with yourself about how much you are making assumptions rather than really doing your desk research and understanding the facts about the programme. Do lots of reading. Funding is an obvious issue for many people, with courses costing in the region of £6,000 to £10,000. There are further loans available, and so it is a more possible direction for many now. Other awards are more likely to offer you a contribution towards your studies rather than the whole costs of a course. And some essential professions have means-tested bursaries to contribute to your living costs. Usually you need a confirmed place on a postgraduate course before applying for any external funding. And often your applications are in the spring before postgraduate study begins. Making an application usually requires a written statement where you present your suitability for the course. Not all courses do this, but lots do. Those that do will give clear guidance and in their application instructions, and you should read these really carefully as they differ from course to course and uni to uni, and they may set a word count. In general, these are the areas that a good application statement will cover. It's essential to outline your reasons for applying both to the course and the university, and to draw on evidence and information from your previous studies and academic successes. Some indication of your career aspirations can be quite useful, as is some indication of where your research interests lie. And you might also mention the type of person that you are and how that's relevant to the skills that you possess for being successful on a research-based course. In general terms, avoid flattery and stick to facts. Be aware that a university's reputation is not a good enough reason to apply for a course unless you can explain what you mean by this. Is there a particular research hub at that institution? What are the latest, what's the latest groundbreaking research that's gone on in your area? Everything you write about needs to be matched to the course criteria and content quite explicitly, as you would do if you were applying for a job. The Careers Service can provide a step-by-step guide to writing a postgraduate application statement and offer advice on any drafts that you have. You can email these in to careers@Roehampton and we will have a look and make some annotations and suggestions for you. The details are here. Thank you for your time. If you do have any further queries, then you can use our live chat facility. You can email us at careers@Roehampton, or you're welcome to book a careers appointment and have a chat through your plans with a careers advisor. You do this through the career link menu block on the student portal. Thanks for your time for listening, and if you have any questions, do get in touch. Bye.